Hi, everybody in podcast land and also on YouTube. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And this is the Carpool Critics Movie Podcast, where today we are talking about Edgar Wright's famous Shaun of the Dead. Spoiler alert!
That was spoiler alert. I took the T off because that's what the British people say, in case you were wondering.
With the Cockney accent.
Yeah.
Like
Spoiler alert!
I love it.
The kind of Christian Bale vibe on that. And if you're a part of our convoy of people who watch the movie ahead of time and like to follow along, next week we are going to be doing somehow the most requested movie.
Yeah.
Event Horizon. It's a late 90s sci-fi horror movie that everyone's emailing us about for some reason. It actually is sweet. It doesn't have the greatest ratings, but it's a sick movie. And guess what? Sarah's going to be here to talk about it with us.
Because it's a scary one.
Event Horizon.
When did people start requesting that? After which movie?
I don't know. I've
did a
seen
scary one.
I've seen requests like consistently,
Yeah.
but in the last 2 weeks we had 3.
I'd never even heard of the movie, really. Like, I thought that phrase, I encountered that phrase, but I was like, if someone's like, Event Horizon, the movie, I'm like, who? What?
It's a science term.
Sounds like Quantum Leap.
Exactly.
But today it's all about Shaun of the Dead.
That's right.
Okay, cool. David, you really wanted to cover this movie. I'm interested to hear your slogan rating out of 10.
Shaun of the Dead is a movie so cleverly dense, it turns a reoccurring fart joke into efficient storytelling. Enough said. 8.8 out of 10.
Ooh, 8.8. Wow. Okay.
It'd be a little bit higher, but well, there's something in there that brought it down a little bit.
All right, I sense trouble on the horizon. Anyways, here we go. Well, here's my slogan. What's the plan then? Right, we film a zombie horror comedy, stuff it full of in-jokes, cameos, and synchronized musical sequences, release it a week after the Dawn of the Dead remake, have a cup of tea, and start writing Hot Fuzz. 6.5 out of 10.
6.5. Brave.
Yeah,
Brave.
because here's the deal. I don't know. I didn't feel it. I'm not feeling it that much. Okay. Although I obviously felt it enough to write that slogan. Spent a while on it.
I mean, this is a highly beloved movie. You can even see in the Twitter comments on our Twitter page at Carpool Critics where people were like, yes, do the whole Cornetto trilogy. This is the best. Been waiting forever.
Just to clarify, our rating system, it's mostly all the same, right?
Yeah, we're pretty close.
For me, if it's above 5, I liked it. Below 5, I didn't like it. This is 6.5, so I liked it, but I was just kind of like, eh.
Riley, I sympathize with you. Shaun of the Dead is a fresh, funny fusion of horror and comedy. V-likeable, 7 out of 10.
V-leggable.
Like, I like it, I just don't love it.
Yeah.
How many times have you guys seen it?
Twice.
Yeah, this is only my second time.
See, that's the thing, is you kind of have to buy in enough that you watch it over and over and you realize, like, there's not a single line in that movie that isn't used multiple times to build it out. And like, and that's something that you get on multiple rewatches.
I did notice that stuff, and it actually helped having seen Baby Driver. There's a lot of
totally.
You can really get the style.
The Edgar Wright.
Yeah, I think when I saw it the first time, I hadn't seen a lot of Edgar Wright movies, and so having seen like Scott Pilgrim, Baby Driver, I go back and watch this one. And I'm like, oh man, he has these like very distinct cues where you like, oh, that's how you know it's an Edgar Wright movie. However, all of these things we were talking about where the movie's like chocked full of like these special little moments and whatnot, I don't necessarily, like, they don't work on me as much, I guess. They don't speak to me in the same way, I think.
That's fair. Do you know what does speak to me?
What?
Our sponsor.
Carpool Critics is supported by Manscaped's Performance Package Kit. It comes with a ton of stuff, including the new lawnmower waterproof trimmer with advanced skin-safe technology, and their crop preserver ball deodorant, which I've actually used. And I don't have this one, the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer. I used to make fun of people for needing this, but actually, now I'm one of you. My nose hairs are poking out. It also comes with their Shears 2.0 luxury nail kit. A lot of stuff. So head to manscaped.com/carpool20 today and get 20% off, plus free international shipping. I like that. As a Canadian, I'm international.
We are not domestic.
And it all comes in their Shed travel bag, which is a very high quality bag. And there's a pair of boxers in there and a t-shirt.
Good gravy.
It's insane. Limited time only. We're also brought to you by Private Internet Access VPN. PIA helps you hide your true IP address so that you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 10 devices at once, and it includes an internet kill switch.
That's a cricket bat.
Okay. If your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even as a content criminal extension. So check it out as lmg.gg/carpoolcritics. Do it. We're just so bad at selling stuff.
What's happening today?
So for those of you who haven't seen this movie since, when did it come out?
2004.
2004. A simpler time.
2 weeks after Dawn of the Dead, the remake.
I didn't see that one either.
It's okay.
I did.
Okay, Riley, why don't you remind us what happened with hit us up with a bit of the remix.
In a London suburb, 29-year-old Shaun works a dead-end job, lives with his slacker best friend Ed, and constantly lets down his girlfriend Liz. So she dumps him. After a night of heavy drinking at their favorite pub, the Winchester, Shaun and Ed very slowly realize that zombies have overrun the city. So they set out to rescue Liz and Shaun's mother, Barbara. Fighting off zombies with a cricket bat and a shovel, they retrieve Barbara and her husband Philip, who's been bitten, before picking up Liz and her flatmates, David and Diane. It's a big group now. Philip apologizes to Shaun for their tumultuous relationship before becoming a zombie. The group finally arrive at the Winchester, discovering that the rifle above the bar is functional. Barbara reveals she was bitten and dies. David tries to shoot her, leading to an argument, but when Barbara reanimates, a distraught Shaun does it himself. Zombies break into the pub, devouring David. Diane rushes out to save him. Ed is bitten before he, Shaun, and Liz hide in the cellar. With only 2 bullets left, the group considers suicide before discovering a lift that opens onto the street. So Ed volunteers to hold the zombies off as Shaun and Liz escape and meet the army, who gun down the horde. 6 months later, surviving zombies are used as cheap labor and entertainment. Liz moves in with Shaun, who keeps the zombified Ed tethered in his shed, where they play video games. LOL. Weird ending. I didn't like it.
That's fair.
In what respect?
It's just like it passes it off as like a happy ending, but it's like it feels really weird because Liz and Shaun are kind of back at square one, and you kept your friend around, but he's a zombie and he's not really alive. Like, I don't know.
Nah, dude, they're not back at square one. They're not, because the whole movie is about his like transition out of basically adolescence. There's this aspect, like you can think of the character of Ed as like a part of his mind.
Yeah.
And it's at the stage of life that he's in, it's holding him back.
For sure.
And so he needs to either destroy that part of his mind, or at least what's more healthy is just shrink it down to a manageable size. So by the end of the movie, when this part of him, Ed, is still alive, but it's literally on a leash. And it's in the shed. So
okay, I like that a little bit more.
You can be a functioning adult and still play some video games.
No, totally. I get that that's the metaphor, I guess. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way, though. I don't know. Just from on a literal level, just like keeping Ed alive so that you can like go in the shed and play video games with it. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. And I will say that about this movie, because I don't want to get too negative right off the top. It is a very, very funny movie. We'll get back to the ending.
I think it plays into the kind of mid-2000s zombie thing where it was like, see, like, we're all zombies. Like, in real life, everybody's a zombie. Consumerism, zombies.
The Walking Dead, that's us.
Yeah. And so I think it's playing into that, because that was like really what zombie movies were about in that time, is trying to say something about society with zombies.
Yeah, man. It was a zombie moment.
Yeah.
Zombies were huge.
Now the kind of new trend with zombies is to tell a human story with zombies as the backdrop. And like Walking Dead or Last of Us, it's barely about the zombies. It's about human versus human conflict and how that plays out. But at this time, you were trying to use the zombies to say something.
Yeah, that is the more interesting thing to do with zombies, because they force humans to be in crazy situations. But zombies themselves aren't that interesting. No. They're pretty one-dimensional when you interact with them. The cool thing about them is that they just never stop.
Yeah.
They're always coming. So you're never safe. You can never relax.
Yeah.
You're always high-strung, and that just makes you be in shitty situations all the time.
I mean, the interesting thing to me about the whole genre of like zombie movie, like when you just take like a generic zombie and think about the idea of a zombie, the thing that's interesting to me there is like what makes us human, right? Because this is an animated flesh machine that is like going around doing things, but something has been lost. It's not a human. We don't treat it as a human, even though only a human who is like innately familiar with the way that we like actually interact with us and behave would be able to tell that's not a human, that's a zombie, you know? So it's like an interesting question of what makes us human. But
is this the first zombie comedy?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, like Dawn of the Dead's pretty funny, like the OG one in the 80s. And I mean, like
intentionally?
Yeah, a bit of both. Because I mean, it's again a social commentary about like consumerism, because it takes place in a mall very particularly so that they can accentuate how we're all brain dead because we're consumers. And so it's the first almost pure comedy. Although I'm always shocked at the tonal shift by the end of this movie.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big shift into like full self-sincere zombie sadness.
Like by the time he's old yellering his own mom, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
They tried to break it up a bit. I think the like second that he shoots her, Ed comes in with him kind of joke. made a little more levity there. But
I think that even in Edgar Wright's movies, that's what he does, right? Like he'll have these human moments, but they're punctuated still by like, a joke or whatever. And I think that, or with something stylistically interesting at the very least. And I like that about him.
We'll get there, but I think that Hot Fuzz is a more tonally consistent movie, and I think that this movie suffers a tiny bit from it. But let's go back to the beginning, because I think this movie starts really strong.
Okay.
And I talked a little bit about the density of this movie, and how not a frame, not a second, not a line of dialogue is wasted. Everything is a setup and a payoff. Everything is foreshadowing, and it's insane the amount of like detail that went into this screenplay.
Yeah.
I really like the opening where at first there's just so many little reveals, right? You're looking just at him and he's just vacantly gazing off in the distance. You kind of think, oh, this guy's drinking alone. And then you find, okay, he's not drinking alone. He's with her.
Yeah.
And then they start talking about this character, Ed. Oh, it turns out he's in earshot. Ed's right there. And then they do it yet again with her friends there. Oh, that was pretty clever.
No, yeah, that whole structure is really intriguing, even to me as someone who's like, okay, no, I won't get in the negative. I really liked how she's like, Ed, it's not that I don't like Ed. Ed, it's not that I don't like you.
Yeah.
And then it pans to him. Yeah. It's a great kind of way to bring you in with this like stylistic little flourish.
Totally, but it also introduces you so well to every single character. And those are like the kind of main players. Like the mom and the dad come later, but you really get a dynamic for what's going on. Even how David likes Liz a little bit, and like how he's so snarky to Shaun because he's overcompensating for his liking of her.
Right.
Oh, like, you know what's sick, actually, I just realized, is not only do you get introduced to all the characters, but you get to introduce them in order of importance.
Oh.
Where sometimes when you meet a gang of 5 people at the beginning, you don't know who matters more than who else. But in this one, you meet the main character,
Liz.
then Liz, then Ed, and then those other 2, they're kind of more side character-y, but they are in the main group.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, and then like they set up Shaun's character arc in the first scene. Like it's insane. Like most movies will introduce you to where a character is, but they're not within the first scene. They're not going to be like, this is what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Like this movie just sets it up. It's like he has to grow up. He has to figure it out. He has to learn how to love Liz properly. And like, I just love that.
I think that having the opening of a film set like in the middle of a scene can really help with that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of filmmakers have an instinct to start somewhere basic, like he wakes up and he makes himself coffee and he's on his way to work, and like, oh, and we're kind of like learning things about him on the way as he's just going about his day or something, the character. But this like starts right in the middle.
Cold open.
They've already been having this conversation. We're in the middle of this scene, and it's we get the feeling of the vibe is there.
Yeah. Well, and like all the lines of dialogue in that scene will be repeated again later with a new meaning, and like this movie does that all the time. They say a line of dialogue, and then there's a new meaning later. Like when he's going through the bar, and he's like, when Liz has dumped Shaun, and Ed is trying to give him a pep talk. And he's like, oh, like, there's a bunch of interesting people at this bar. See, like, it's all good. Like, Snake Hips. Like, he's always surrounded by women. Later in the movie, Snake Hips is being eaten by a bunch of women.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, every single person that they set up will be returned in the movie in some way. Every single extra before the zombies will come back as a zombie.
Every bit part character.
Yeah, in that montage before, like, Mary is set up. And, like, to me, that's a sign
Mary is the zombie they encounter in the backyard.
Yeah.
And we see her as a cashier in the opening. Yeah.
And, like, I just...
the one I noticed was cock it. Yeah, Ed in the first scene he says cock it like it's that means like oh crap. Yeah, kind of when he's playing games. And then later on I think it's the third time he says it, where he says it to someone who's holding a gun and they literally cock it.
Yeah. Well, and there's really like great ones where you just don't pick it up like the first couple times you watch it, where Pete yells at Ed, he's like, "You want to live like an animal? Go live in the shed." And it's like, he will go do that by the end. But I think the best one, and I didn't pick up on it till like maybe 2 or 3 watches ago, is when Ed is giving that pep talk to Shaun, and he's talking about what we're going to do to get through it. He's literally foreshadowing the entire movie cocktail by cocktail.
But okay, I saw that too, and I'm like, okay, wait, did I put that in here?
Yeah. So we'll have a Bloody Mary first thing, a bite at the king's head, a couple at the Little Princess, stagger back here, and then bang, bang, back at the bar for shots.
Okay, so but the bite at the king's head.
Yeah, it's about his dad who's a patriarch. Yeah.
Phil getting bitten.
Yeah.
I know, but it's just like, I don't know. Like,
what do you want him to say? No, dad's bite?
No, I'm not saying okay, here's my point. Getting a little bit into the negative, just because I don't want to go too deep, but you're saying all of these things, and those are the very things that kind of annoyed me about the movie.
Really?
Because this is Edgar Wright. You know, I'm not. This is kind of what I'm saying about like not loving Edgar Wright's whole style. Mm-hmm. It's very, very flashy. It's very, very self-referential, and it makes things very complex. and stylish. But I think that while I'm watching, when they repeat lines like that, like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, I'm like, okay, I can get it. But the whole movie, as you say, is just chock full of these references to things that other things that happen in the movie, things that happen in other things that the actors have done. There's like so many in references to Spaced, which was like the TV
Spaced.
show that
Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg
and Nick Frost was in it too. And so at a certain point, I'm just kind of like, all right, I get it.
See, I think though that
Tone it down.
The way you're saying it makes it sound like they're doing the same thing over and over, but they're bringing a dimensionality to this like meta self-referential element, and like they're approaching it from different ways. And like the way they do foreshadowing is totally different. Where one time they'll set up that there is the child locks on the car, and then like 2 scenes later, it's gonna fuck them over.
Yeah.
They're not doing the same thing with these self-referential things.
Yeah.
They're building out this like complex, like dense piece of tungsten of movie,
Right.
With like really interesting ideas, and like I mean, maybe it's a preference thing, but I just
it's 100%
love
a preference
It's definitely
thing
a preference thing.
It's style, right?
Yeah.
And if it was just a good thing to do unanimously, this is how all movies would be done, and it wouldn't be unique. It's unique because not everyone does it, because not everybody likes it.
Yep.
So just by its very nature, some people won't like it, and some people will really, really like it.
What I will say in on the positive side for this kind of thing is that Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg and the whole team seems to do an excellent job of having that style and also having substance. I think that when I see like all of these super heavy stylistic flourishes, I'm like, okay, you care way too much about style. But and that happens in a lot of other movies, right? People place more emphasis on that.
Like Baby Driver. This is better than Baby Driver.
Way better.
Right, exactly. Baby Driver is a great example of something that, in my opinion, places way too much emphasis on style and not enough on
I think that's
substance.
fair.
But this is a movie that I will say has the substance to back that up. So I really appreciate that. However, from someone who likes to kind of like immerse myself in what I'm watching, like even when I'm analyzing things, I like to be taken there. I like to be taken on a ride. And all of these little things just remind me that I'm watching a carefully crafted thing by Edgar Wright or whatever, and I just see the filmmaker instead of the film.
That's fair.
And I think that's
I think
where
that's
my
not
preference
totally
comes
It's
from.
not my issue with it. I like it. It's cool, and I like noticing like, he always says that, I'm starting to get what they're doing, and I like all that. But for me, it has an effect where by the time I'm in like the final quarter of the movie, almost no line of dialogue is new by that point. It's all like everything is a callback, and I just found myself like I chuckled many times in this movie, but I never like lost my shit.
I think that's really what it
laughing
is
in this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Like
for me, that's why it's a 7.
By the time everything's repeating itself, I'm like, okay, yeah,
But I think
we get it.
there is stuff like I think the big dramatic moments aren't all callbacks. Like there's moments that when they're going more into the self-serious, they know to like ease up on the meta pedal.
Totally.
And they're great. Some of those moments are great. The moment that he has the midpoint with his father in the backseat of the car.
Yeah.
It's a good moment.
Like, and Simon Pegg suddenly has tears on his face, on his cheeks, and they're earned.
It's like perfectly placed to make you care about a movie, which up till now has mostly been just kind of a fun romp. And that moment really brings you in and be like, oh yeah, this movie is about Shaun's character and his development from the kind of this like slacker loser into a man of action, a hero, a self-made person or whatever. And I was like, oh, this is actually kind of touching. Also, Bill Nighy's great.
Bill Nye? Oh, Nighy.
Bill Nighy.
Yeah. I was like, wait, Bill Nighy's in this movie?
When I saw that it was Bill Nighy playing his dad, or his father-in-law, or stepfather, I was like, yes, I love Bill Nighy.
What else is he in?
Oh man, he's in a million things.
Harry Potter.
Can't name any of them.
He's the
Doctor Who.
captain in Pirates of the Caribbean, the fish guy, Davy Jones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's in Harry Potter.
He's just one of those British actors that's in a ton of stuff.
He's in a million.
What this movie is so amazing at is delaying the zombies. It's amazing. You keep thinking like, okay, now they're gonna interact with the zombies, but then they don't again and again and again. Like you know that there's zombies outside. They start walking outside of the bar, walking home, staggering drunk.
Yep.
And they start interacting with a zombie, but they're so drunk they don't realize because they're humming some or singing some song I don't know.
Yeah.
But then.
They didn't talk to two zombies.
So clever, man. The zombie down the road is just groaning, and they think that he's singing along because the song they're singing happens to have groaning in it. And then they chastise it. The dude's like, that twat over there doesn't know the words of the song, and then they walk on. That's so funny.
See, I didn't laugh at that.
You don't like that?
But continue.
But I don't think this is a laugh out loud movie, and I don't think all comedies are laugh out loud. And like when you're by yourself or with one other person, no movie is a laugh out loud movie.
I definitely laughed out loud at multiple points. I think it's a very, very funny movie, and I laughed out loud. It was just like that point. I was like, I think that there's a certain we're still getting.
You're so set on the
no,
negatives.
I don't want to be talking. Look,
I'm not done. I'm talking about
fine.
the
Go
delay.
ahead.
The
Go ahead.
delayed gratification
Yeah.
is so good because they're setting up the zombies for so long because they do that, again, similar to Baby Driver. There's that big walking shot. He's going through the town. It establishes all these characters like the kid with the soccer ball and the shopkeeper. And we kind of need that because then later on, we need to know what Bizarro World looks like. He does that same walk again with the same long shot, and it's all different now. And that's the first time you're like, okay, now he's going to interact with all these zombies. He doesn't. Yeah. Then the bar thing happens. They still don't know. And then there's a zombie in their backyard, and they just think it's a drunk chick. It's delayed so far. Even when that first zombie is biting down on him, bearing down on him, they still are just like, man, this chick's nasty. He goes and gets a camera. It's just delayed to the max. I thought that was just expertly
and
done.
I love that it's a disposable camera too. Like he doesn't even have a real camera or anything.
and then after she gets impaled, he starts winding it up. It's pretty good that it's still as funny as it is all these years on.
Yeah.
Because comedies can really decay.
I think that's it goes to show how much they invested into the different kinds of comedy. Because like comedies now are very like improv based, and everything is like, okay, we get really funny people into a room, we give them a funny scenario, and then they play it out. Right. But this is so crafted, so meticulously crafted.
Right.
Like even the little things like Shaun getting a phone call and the receiver just comes into frame like an inch from his face, and like they had to try that out, have the guy fully extended, getting it there, and like that's a way of having like comedy is things entering or exiting the frame in like an unusual way.
I love when he's you never hopped a fence before and you got on the fence falls over? That was in the trailer, I think, but it's
that's a Cornetto Trilogy thing. Every movie has a fence jumping joke.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't see any of the other ones.
We got to do them. We'll see how. Yeah.
Do we have to?
I love this style of movie.
You just referenced another thing where they're just like setting up a joke and then repeating it multiple times.
Just turn Riley off even more.
I think one thing we can all agree on is how good the transitions are in this movie. Like I love that they do the like really intense whip zooms on like mundane things like brushing your teeth, opening a drawer.
I call that the Requiem for a Dream montage.
Yeah, and it's funny because like it serves as a good transition, but it's like it amps the intensity anyway, and like it works as the dual purpose for this movie, where it is a zombie movie and there is like death and like life stakes, but it's silly. And like you're seeing jam being spread on toast really intensely.
Well, but it's also the monotony of everyday life, and it has some kind of unity with when he's riding on the bus and everyone looks like a zombie and they're all on our phones.
Oh, and it's the sandstorm, whatever that intense song is playing.
It's by a band with zombie in its name.
That song is called Whoa Whoa. Oh. I'm not joking.
But it's funny. Yeah, he's just on the bus and like the movie knows. I love it. Even other transitions, like when they're about to like fake being zombies, and the friend has to like give him an acting class on being a zombie, and they're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and then the transition is just a hard cut to them doing it. Like all these things, you can't just like make that happen in editing. You can't just make that happen on the day. It's all planned and thought out. And this movie, I get the idea that like every frame, every second was like Edgar Wright had it in his mind.
Right.
And he just has such a vision for this movie.
I think it was Tolstoy who said like the most important part of writing is the transitions. It really makes a huge difference when you set up something like in what movie was it recently where we covered where it was Silence of the Lambs, where you're like, just never forget, Starling, what he is, and then it cuts to a whole different character saying, "Oh, he's a monster." It's like those transitions are sick.
Yeah.
I like the editing in this movie a lot. However, I will say that I think that those little Requiem for a Dream montages, I think they do a couple too many in this one. I was a little sick of them.
I think that's just a time thing where it's like in 2004 it would have felt a little more fresh, and now that we've had a parody on the parody on the parody, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it too quick.
I think that's probably a big reason why I wasn't feeling it so much either, because this came out in 2004, and at that time, it was like the first. I don't even know if there's been other like zombie comedy type situations. Since then.
There was that one. What the heck was that one called? Where he's a zombie and he's in love with a
That's Warm
girl.
Bodies.
Warm Bodies.
That's like a romantic comedy. There's a comedy. There's comedy zombie movies.
The point being that the zombie genre has now been experimented so much with that there's all sorts of different movies that explore different ideas and permutations. But at the time, this was like, oh, we've never really seen this before. Like a fun, ridiculous, very stylized comedy set in a zombie apocalypse situation. Some of these. At the time, I'm sure I agree with you that some of these like transition montages and stuff were like people were like, "Whoa, cool."
Well, you think about how Dawn of the Dead came 2 weeks before this, and that's a very self-serious, like classical zombie movie where it's not postmodern where it's like trying to make a commentary on like what society thinks about zombies. It's just
Zack Snyder.
Oh God, of course it is.
It does have comedy in it, but it's not a comedy.
No, but like it's very straight-faced. Where I think most zombie things now have to have like one level of postmodernism as a commentary on what zombies are.
Right.
And that movie was very straight-faced.
Zack Snyder should just not make movies. Okay, wait. We're going to do the Snyder cut, right?
We're going to do the Snyder.
Yeah, we can talk about that then.
We'll talk about
this movie has great examples of premise delivery where you're like, yep, this is why I came here. Like when they're in the backyard taking pictures of the zombie, like he tilts her head and makes her smile. They take a picture. And then right after that's when they're throwing their records.
Yeah.
And the zombies are so slow that they have enough time to go through like, oh, don't throw Purple Rain. No, throw that one. And they miss every time. And they're trying to cut their heads off with these records. Like that was amazing. And that's exactly what I want out of, like, what could a zombie comedy be? That's exactly it.
Well, and I think that scene's great too because it helps you get to know Shaun, but it also sets up like the musical numbers too, where you're like, okay, music and zombies are going to be intertwined, and so it serves like four purposes, even though it's just like a silly comedy scene.
Yeah,
I love it.
See, okay, I just for the record, I didn't love that scene because I was kind of like, okay, I get it. You're going through the records and you can bash some and like, oh, don't throw that one. That one's good. I want to keep it. And I'm like, okay, so like. I don't know. It's just so transparent, and I think
what
that,
a
like,
hater.
I know.
I'm being a hater right now for sure. But like, I'm just trying to be honest about the like. It just didn't grip me, and probably part of that is because I'm not into like this kind of like rock star style. Like, ooh, we're being flashy, and we got crazy lens flares and transitions, woo whoosh, and like effects, and I'm just like. I don't want to see that stuff. I don't want to see the magician doing the flourish. I just want to see the trick, you know? Don't like wow me with your
more of a David Blaine guy than a Chris Angel.
Sure. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll go with that. Sure. I mean, I'm not a real life David Blaine fan or whatever, but yeah,
Street magic.
As a metaphor, I want to be actually tricked into believing what I'm seeing instead of like having someone flash sparkly lights in front of me and be like, whoa, what happened?
I think that's totally fair, and I think you're not the person Edgar Wright's making these movies for. He's making these movies for huge movie fans that like watch movies nonstop, and for me, the illusion of movies doesn't really exist anymore. When I went to film school and like saw the sausage being made, it changed how I enjoy movies. And then
The Sausage Being Made, 1956. Like it's a film. Like that's the title. I went to film school. I saw The Sausage Being Made.
Yeah, and I think like to me, seeing the craft, I totally get it because like it does take you out of it. But I think that when you see that kind of craft, I'm just in awe of the fact that he was able to cram that much craft into 140 minutes. Like not anyone doing their best could do it, and like these are two very talented writers working their absolute hearts out to make something that's so dense, and that takes a lot of skill.
I will say I respect the skill, and I respect Edgar Wright's ability to use the medium of cinema to its greatest potential. I don't know, whatever, they're not the greatest movies ever made, but it sounds like you maybe watched this video essay too that I was watching where someone's like, comedies nowadays are so lame, you know. It's basically like sketch comedy put into a movie form. Yeah. And there's no interesting camera moves. There's no like crazy stuff like art going on. But Edgar Wright does this thing where he is like, no, this is an interesting medium with so much potential for the combination of visuals and music and writing and acting, and so there's like so many things you can manipulate and like craft to be this vision that you want. And I do respect that. I think that I have a personal preference that even though I do know a lot about how movies are made and what goes on behind the scenes, I want to be tricked. And when a movie can do that for me, despite, like when I watch Lord of the Rings, I see all these problems with it, right? I'm like, oh, the effects are stupid here, and like I can see through that guy's disguise or whatever. But the writing and the themes are so compelling that I don't care. And with this one, I didn't care as much about the characters and what was going on enough for me to look past it's because he was drawing my attention to it.
Yeah, for
sure.
Like,
look at this.
He
look at
wants
this. Look
you
at
to
this.
see it. I do get that. I get it. I think though, like, there's just so many clever visual gags. I think my favorite one is the second time they're going through that big Steadicam shot where he ends up at the convenience store and back, and the first time he just opens the door and he like looks at a beer or whatever, puts it back, grabs a Coke, and goes and pays. But the second time there's like bloody hands on the window, and it's like you said, it's like the delaying of it, and then he just slips, and you're like, oh, there's blood there, and it's like they don't draw that attention to it, but you're just like, oh, this place is fucking dead.
I loved that.
So fucked up.
I loved that.
Yeah,
His hands are kind of backwards on the door. Did you notice that?
It's like as if it was from the inside.
Yeah, it's like the door must have been opened when they went. Otherwise,
I didn't think about it, but yeah, you're right.
Oh, dang, dude.
This movie fucking sucks.
For me, those moments, the moments like that where they recreate the shot before and after the zombie attack or whatever, I don't know who, like, are people leaning forward in that moment and being like, oh, it's the same shot, you know? Or are they doing what I did, which was kind of like, it's the same shot.
I think somewhere in between.
Yeah, but what I said is before, it has a story purpose.
Yeah.
Like taking us through those same scenes before demonstrates to us like the world is different now.
I guess but to me, when you say it has a story purpose, it implies that there's something we learn in that moment.
I think it's part of the theme of like people were zombies before.
I
like
guess
the garbage guy who like looked at him really creepily, and you're like, oh, is he a zombie already?
Or we're learning about Shaun's character, that he is so oblivious.
Yes, I think that's part of it too.
Yeah.
They
really beat you over the head with that, though, I think.
Yeah, but that's 2004.
Well, what all I'm saying is like we know that the world is different now because we saw it before. We saw it in the normal state, and we see it in the bizarro state.
Right, but like we don't need that whole shot to tell us that, right? We like look out on the street and we see the zombies, and we're like, okay, we know. Anyway, okay, moving on.
Kind of.
You know?
I think there's other examples of really good visual storytelling. Something as simple as when he's making or trying to make the reservation at the fish place. The way it's shot is like very smart and it's very simple. The movie has a little bit of shaky cam, but this is one of the few times it does it, and it does a shaky cam and it pulls out with Shaun, but he walks into basically what feels like an invisible wall just as he's connecting, and it's like this visual
connecting as in
to like on the other side of the line, and it's this visual feeling that you get where it's like he's coming up against a wall with this like this reservation, and like it's just like such a simple camera move, but it accentuates the feeling that he's feeling, and it makes the audience participate.
That's something that I definitely do appreciate about this whole style is the camera moves that accentuate like character moments like that. Like when they are talking about what to do about the zombies in the backyard, and the camera follows Ed. They're like, what are they doing or whatever? And Ed walks over to the window, and the camera follows him over to the window. He opens the thing, and the zombies are right up against the glass, being like, and he closes the blinds again and walks back, and the camera follows him back over, and he's like, yeah, they're still there or whatever.
Yeah, I love that.
I appreciate those moments.
Yeah, they're good.
The presentation. Let's talk about Simon Pegg's acting. He's great.
I was like, how old is this character supposed to be? He says he's 29, but this guy's like pretty bald, and he was 38. I know, but he was 34.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think part of why his performance is so good is that he actually co-wrote this with Edgar Wright, and like that's the whole Cornetto trilogy.
Right.
Simon Pegg.
It really makes sense because it's like a vertically integrated product. Like we were saying before, like someone like Judd Apatow, he's gonna write all this dialogue on the page. He's gonna write jokes into the script, but a lot of it is getting the crew together and letting them kind of run wild on set and getting that kind of sketch vibe. Whereas this, it's so much more like auteur. I can't say it. Whatever.
Auteur, yeah.
Where we're writing in the gags. We're also writing in the camera move that matches that gag, and you get so many different forms of comedy because of that.
It's hard to kind of put your finger on it, but in other comedies that don't have that auteur influence or whatever, where like the actor, the main protagonist and the writer director are kind of like working together on it. It's hard to put your finger on it, but there is something about a regular comedy that just doesn't have the depth of feeling that we get from Simon Pegg, and like these close-ups on his face, and he's just like, everything is just so perfect. It's hard to describe.
Well,
but you guys know what I'm talking about.
Totally.
Where it's when I watch him, I'm like, did this guy write and direct the movie? Because it kind of seems like it, because he's nailing everything.
Yeah, they were such a powerful dynamic duo. Like, Space is an incredible show that you should absolutely watch if you haven't watched. And then the whole Cornetto trilogy is incredible. And I think Edgar Wright is missing something without the Simon Pegg. Because Simon Pegg's a great writer. He wrote Star Trek 13, and it's arguably the best of the new movies. And
which one is that?
The Beyond.
Is that the third reboot one?
Yeah, there's issues with it, but it's like a very good. Oh, right, you should.
I've seen the first two.
The third one might be the best.
Oh, wow.
But I think like you can see it in Scott Pilgrim, which I absolutely love. But Edgar Wright in that movie has tripled down on the style,
right?
On like the self-referential. Everything is like meta. Everything is like pulling you out of it.
Is that one come after this movie?
Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz. I think Scott Pilgrim was next, then At World's End, and then Baby Driver.
Ah, gotcha.
The thing tends to happen where you kind of dabble with a new style in your first movie, and then you refine your style as it goes, and then you become like a parody of your own style.
Yeah.
You become so stylistic that you get like a Family Guy episode making fun of you.
Well, I think
like that's like like Tarantino by the time you're in Kill Bill or Grand Budapest Hotel, kind of Wes Anderson. It's like if it's just the first movie I saw from you, it's just like insane. Like, the hell am I looking at?
Totally. And I think Baby Driver really suffers from that, and we all kind of had that shared the opinion where it's like it's more style than substance. But I think with Simon Pegg in this movie, there's so much heart to it, and like the characters are good, and the relationships they have, and like you care about these. I cared about these people quite a bit by the end, and so there's all this clever like window dressing, but at the heart of this movie, there's a truth, there's an honesty that really does come through, and I think that elevates the movie beyond a lot of what else Edgar Wright has done.
Yeah.
You kind of get the sense because of the way that the character arc is constructed. It's not like a zombie movie plus they gave him an arc. It's like they had a character who needed this arc, and the zombie facade facilitates the character moving through the arc.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah, I think
there's a quote where Edgar Wright is saying what the impetus or the original idea was for this movie, and he's like, "Yeah, we were just hanging out, and we were just like, oh, what if we made this like movie about two idiots who are the last to notice that a zombie apocalypse has happened?" And it's like, okay, so that's where you came up. Like, it came from a real place too, because the two characters are clearly. They've said this multiple times. They're based off Simon Pegg's and Nick Frost's like actual relationship as roommates, and you can feel it.
Yeah. Well, the part of the inspiration of this movie was actually an episode of Spaced, where they were. It's like a zombie episode.
It's like a what if happened.
And it's great. Yeah, Space is.
So you've actually watched the show?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Is there only one season?
2 seasons, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And they're only. It's like a British show, so there's like 8 episodes or something.
Oh, so they have accents. I'm not into it.
It's great, but we're going to talk about this, including the problem of Ed saying the N-word.
Oh yeah!
I thought we were going to get to that later,
Erased
but
that from my mind completely. I was like, whoa!
I was like, wow, 2004.
Yeah. I reacted as
Everyone
well.
thought this was okay.
Yeah. I was just like, I leaned forward. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I rewound. I was like, did he actually say that?
I think the point is to show how abrasive and edgelord edgy he is, because like it's not cool that he says it. Everyone's like, ugh, but that's not how you would do it.
Would that have been in the trailer?
No.
I think it was still like I think people still viewed it as like a bad word.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it had. I guess it didn't have. Well, they're British as well. I don't know. Maybe it's. Well,
I remember that during that time. I guess I was in high school. People like wanted to say it because they thought it was cool. It was like, oh, it's cool if you can say it like without getting in trouble. And it was like the card pass and card pass.
I mean, I don't ever remember.
What's a card pass?
Well, it's like you would get a pass to say it because you meet a certain criteria. It was bullshit.
Okay.
I don't remember ever like that word ever being okay for someone not black to say.
Yeah.
So maybe I was just like out of the loop back then. But
and I like I said, I think it is supposed to accentuate how his character is an outsider to everyone, and everyone is like made uncomfortable by him because he constantly says stupid shit.
Yeah, he's clearly supposed to, and I think the same kind of goes for when he's like gay or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think even that, I think that's a little bit more. He's not saying, I'm homophobic. Like this is what gay people would do.
Yes.
He's like, the movie is making a comment about how straight men are like afraid of like emotional candidness, you know?
For sure.
They said that actually. Simon Pegg explained. Wait, can I read the actual quote?
Yeah, for sure.
Only if you do an accent.
Ed So like Nick Frost and Simon Pegg did a promotional video for people to lock down at the very beginning of the pandemic in like March 2020 or something. And anyways, you can go watch the video. But in the video, he mentions this the gay joke in the movie, and he says the original joke wasn't intended. I'm not going to do the accent. The original joke wasn't intended as homophobic. It was more a comment on the absurdity of straight male appropriation of homophobic signifiers in order to denote their aversion to emotional candidness.
Yeah, that's totally what I would have said in retrospect too. Did they have a little disclaimer for the N-word?
Yeah.
No,
We're woke. I swear, we're woke.
no, not in that video.
Yeah.
But I think we were talking about this the other day, actually, how saying that's gay has gone from being, oh, this is actually offensive, and because you're saying this thing is bad because you're calling it gay, to being something where it's like, gay, as in like you care emotionally about people, and it's like sort of a meta criticism of heteronormative.
Well, it's like if your entire society is on the same page now, where it's like it's a given that we're not homophobic. If you live in a society where that's a given.
There is no society where that's a given. Even today, when you play games online, there's so many like R word,
it's coming full
F-word.
Circle again, and people are using it the wrong way.
Anyways, I hate news montages in the movie, but in this movie, they elevate it to the next level.
When they're switching channels?
And he's in the reflection. So you get a shot of him. It's like a medium close-up on top of this channel that's changing. And I think it's funny. Like, there's lots of good comedic jokes.
Yeah.
And that elevates it to a place that I love.
And I think this is the problem with watching like an old movie like this, and for only the second time, I guess, because I saw this movie a long time ago. And watching it again, I see this news montage, especially the part where it's like chaining together all of these phrases taken out of context from the shows, and it comes together to be like, there's panic on the streets of London. Religious people are calling it this thing because dead people are rising for the rays. And that's like that. All of these things are being said by different shows. And I see that and I'm like, okay, I get it. Because I guess I think I've seen something like that before. Yeah. It must have been. Maybe. It must have been redone somewhere because when I saw it this time, I'm like,
Simpsons by now.
I'm like, this is cliche, you know? But I've seen other people hold up this sequence as being like really innovative and like a creative use of cinema and whatnot, and how to like explain things without it being boring. Yeah. It's definitely not boring, I guess.
Yeah, totally. It's very dynamic.
I'm just kind of like, nah, okay, cheesy. We get it.
You could only do that in comedy. It wouldn't work if you're watching Children of Men and they did that. It just doesn't make any sense.
So let's get back to the things that like we really think are interesting about this movie. We talked a lot about the style, but like the tone of the movie shifts heavily from like happy-go-lucky comedy. In many ways, it seems very kind of stereotypical. We have a lovable loser, and then it goes from this like happy-go-lucky situation to something that's really deep and like makes you feel things. Did you guys go on that ride? Did it make you feel things?
I don't like when they're in the bar at the end, that kind of showdown. That's where I start to like the movie less. I start to get just like a little boring. I don't know. And then that is where the tone changes to. It's like super serious. There's not that many jokes. They do the "I'm sorry, Shaun" thing again and that has a good effect to have that callback, kind of like for a climactic moment. But just I don't know what it is about the bar overall though. Just the shooting and stuff. I don't care that much about it.
I think it's because they're having a hard time joining the fun with the style with the drama, whereas the rest of the movie does it pretty seamlessly, where it's like within one scene, you're kind of on this roller coaster. In the bar, it feels like, okay, we're in one sequence now where it's a funny sequence. We're in one sequence now where it's really serious. We're in one sequence. And it just kind of like, it starts to kind of like separate, like oil and vinegar.
All those things are kind of discrete scenes alternating. Whereas in the middle of the movie where he's getting the heart-to-heart with from his stepfather, that's happening right beside characters who aren't involved in that conversation. Yeah. They're in the same car and they're yelling for different reasons. And so it's side by side.
Well, and even how they do it, like go into that scene, it's kind of like, it feels like it's like you're being eased into it, where Shaun's distracted by other thing and his dad's like Shaun, like I'm trying to talk to you. And like as an audience, you're being like pulled into this moment. Yeah. And the rest of the movie, it just like the last bar sequence, you just feels like, discrete scene. You're not being eased in and out of it.
Yeah. That moment in the car is really my favorite scene in the whole movie because it does such a good job of transitioning you from this like, we're driving around trying to avoid zombies. And everyone's yelling at each other and the music's getting turned on and off and blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of slowly brings you down there. And you have this real moment. And I'm like, for me, I honestly hadn't even thought much about Shaun's character until that moment. I was like, oh, he is stuck in his life and he hasn't had really like motivation. I think the key word that Philip says there is you just need motivation. And I'm like, the zombie pen, this whole thing is the motivation. I think it's I heard somebody else say this as well, so it's not my thing, but it's character driving story. We have this character who lacks motivation, who lacks a goal that he's working towards, and the world needs to be shook up in some way, and so the zombies do that, and that gives him this motivation to change the way that he lives. And that scene, I love it. But I think the thing that makes it okay that's a serious scene embedded among other silly scenes or action scenes or whatever is the fact that they're in the car. There's a discrete endpoint. Philip turns into a zombie, and they're like, everyone out of the car, and we have to go somewhere else. But I think that in the bar, we are having these scenes mixed in with each other, but they're all in the same location.
Yeah.
And it just seems a bit jumbled.
Totally. And I mean, like, part of it might be too that like the stakes with Philip feel different because you're not as attached to Philip as his mom or Ed, and so it feels much more like not melodramatic, but like in that direction. Because like
melodramatic, you mean dramatic in a bad way?
Where like the first time I watched this movie, I liked the first half and I hated the second half. Like I was young and I hadn't watched that many movies at that point, but I found the tonal shift when he has to kill his mom was like unbearable. I was like, this is so serious for a comedy. I can't handle
this is supposed to be a comedy.
Like imagining like killing your mom because you turned into a zombie. It's like
rough.
That's full zombie.
Yeah.
Like, that's not like zombie diluted with comedy. That's full like Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Return of the Dead. Like that's as dark as it gets.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just like the stakes are higher in that scene too.
You didn't like that as a kid, but
I hate it as a kid.
But what now?
I don't like. I'm like with James. I think that the bar stuff there's clever bits.
Yeah. I like the series. I love that scene as well when he has to struggle with killing his mom or not.
Yeah.
Because first of all, Simon Pegg does again an amazing job. I think like he is primarily cast as a comedy actor, but he's a really good actor.
Yeah.
He does a hell of a job in that scene, and it really makes you think about the gravity of what like this means, and like he's neglected to call his mom and get her flowers and stuff, and so like we're feeling all the weight of his bad decisions, and it's a great scene. But like, yeah, I agree. Then actually after that, it's pretty much serious all the way with like little bit jokes.
And I think right after that, there's the most violent death in the whole movie, which is David getting ripped apart.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And like when I was like 15, 13, that was fucking scary.
It's so shocking.
Yeah.
I think you know what? That might be the drop that makes the glass run over.
Oh yeah,
that might be the one where it's like I can handle him having to kill his mom. That kind of could fit in the movie. In a movie where we already saw him say goodbye to his stepdad in the way that he did, that could have worked. And then he has the final confrontation with Ed, but in between there, where this guy's getting disemboweled, and you see his like head get ripped off,
and his reaction.
I think that was too much.
Yeah,
I think you see the moment the light goes out of his eyes as his intestines are being ripped apart, and like he's just like, I'm like, oh god, this is supposed to, what?
And
I don't want
he
to
should
feel
have
this
died
right
in
now.
a funny way so that we could be, because the whole movie you kind of hate that guy.
Yeah.
So he should have died in a way where like, haha, he shit himself.
Yeah,
Like,
Well, they kind of turned it around to funny because in like the special features, his girlfriend uses his leg to his she basically takes his leg as him and like beats the zombies off and survives. So it's like goofy.
We see a little bit of that.
But like.
She kind of just disappears out the door.
Yeah,
but no, I agree with you. That's the point where it sunk even deeper to me. But the point for me where the movie lost me was when they beat up what's his name, Big Al?
Oh, really?
The bar owner. When they beat him up with the pool cues to the tune of "Don't Stop Me Now" by Queen. I'm like, okay, can we move on? Like I get it. They're doing it in time, and even like. It goes on for so long.
It does.
Like do like a few hits in time to it, and it's like stylistic. But instead they like put in this little music video in the middle of the movie, and they even have this other shot looking past Shaun as Ed's talking to him, I think.
Yeah.
And we don't even see Al getting hit with it. We just see Ed hitting the pool cue in time to the beat, just while he's talking. He's like, "Go get the thing," and he's like,
"It's hard."
In
I think
time,
it's
like,
a balancing act because like to get the rights to use that song was a lot of money, and so if it's only going to be a 15-second gag, It's not worth it.
Still,
But if it's a minute and a half,
that's not an excuse.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that that's probably the
It
justification.
could have been the rationale there, but yeah, they should have gone sillier with it. You should have seen someone actually like bopping their head while like
maybe a zombie
air
is
drumming, like
zombie moving to the beat.
Because I agree, it was kind of just like, what's going on? Let's go.
I do like when
exactly
David
my
goes and he's
reaction.
breaking the fuses kind of to the music, and like you get the zombies in the background. I think that's a good escalation of that scene back into the life and death. And so I like that. I think the whole scene goes on too long.
If I could make Edgar Wright do one thing less, like if I had the power, if I had some superpower where I could take away one thing out of his arsenal,
make him Edgar
it would be
Writer.
Like it would be like making him stop putting almost a whole song in a movie and have a bunch of things happening in perfect time to the song.
I like it in Baby Driver.
It's fun.
It works in Baby Driver.
It works in Baby Driver in the intro.
It's a movie.
The intro, yeah.
It's a movie or a music based movie.
Yes.
So like, okay.
I accept it in Baby Driver in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps happening, and I'm like,
That's
all right. We get it.
Should have been a short film, that one. We have a whole episode on Baby Driver, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to go back to the ending because you said that, James, you said that you liked it because of the kind of the metaphor of like what Shaun's new life means in terms of like, okay, he's got Liz now.
They live together.
They live together.
It looks like they do.
They're not struggling there anymore, and he still gets to have, his video games or whatever. But I think that even from a metaphorical perspective, it's a little problematic just because, okay, he's got that aspect of his life, but it's out in the shed out back, and Liz has no part of it. And like, it's not even that he has like his area in the house. It's like, and if he wants to hang out with his friend and play video games, he goes out in the shed. It's like still a repressed part of his psyche or something.
Well, sure, but I mean, at some point the theme has to, like, the rubber meets the road, where it's like he's not going to have a zombie
in his house,
in his living room.
Oh, for sure. Well, I would say just don't have the zombie because that's weird on multiple levels.
But you couldn't have Ed die.
Why not?
No good.
Dealing with death. He's already dealt with death multiple times.
There's no time in the movie to like deal with the permanence of death.
But this is what's so weird. He deals with it. He reconciles with his stepdad and then has to say goodbye to him, even though like now he's like, oh, we could have been friends or whatever. He has to say goodbye and shoot his mom in the head after she turns into a zombie. And so it's like, why is he holding on to Ed?
I don't think the movie is dealing with the permanence of death, though. I don't think in either of those scenes, like, you get a sense of like, this is the final morning. It's just like, it's more that he's growing up and dealing with like the emotional side of these relationships.
Totally.
I don't think it's
But I think that
death.
I think that from a like maturity perspective, it's weird to have him go through these experiences that makes him develop, right? Yeah. And then have this signifier that he's still holding on to his like slacker friend because he can play video games with him.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they tested both and audiences liked this more. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just like, nobody liked it when Ed died.
Yeah. I can see people watching this ending and being like, oh, yeah, he's still got the guy. And it's just another one of these moments in this movie where I'm kind of like,
Fair enough.
I think on another level, one other thing I wanted to say about the ending is the fact that Liz, one of the big reasons that Liz is upset with Shaun is because she's like, I want to go do stuff, We do the same thing all the time. We go to the same pub. We talk to the same, we hang out with the same people. I want to like go travel. He's like, we've been to Greece. We met in Greece,
Yeah.
And we see at the end, he's like, what's the plan then? And she's like, describes a day that is super, super normal. And they're just going to come back and watch television. And he's like, sounds good. And so it's like, on the one hand, I appreciate that because that's what my life is, more or less. It's like I enjoy.
And Lauren is very happy. She is so happy.
No, I enjoy normalcy. I'm not like, I don't like instability. I like, at the end of the day, I'm like, let me just go home and watch my shows and have some treats, have some chocolate.
But this is what you're saying, they're back to square one.
But I'm
like,
saying,
from her perspective.
Yeah, for their characters. And I think that Shaun wanted to do that too, but I think he had so much fun goofing around and being a loser with Ed that those instincts that he had to go out and do something and lead and make something of himself were held back. They say that he's holding him back, and I think Ed definitely is holding Shaun back in this movie. And so, from that perspective, they're back to square one, and it's kind of.
So you would just have preferred if she said like, "What we're doing this afternoon is going to our tango dancing class." Something, just something that they
Zombie
weren't doing
tango.
No,
before?
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know what I would do.
Or
if I
he's
would
like
write the
wearing a
movie.
suit, like he has a new job or something.
Or some indicator that this experience has changed them and they are now fulfilling a part of themselves that they were repressing before. So it could be anything. But what we see is them doing the exact same thing that they were saying.
All
is
you
bad.
really need to see is that she's happy. Because everything else is just fluff, right?
I guess so. I don't know.
But I hear what you're saying. Like, if you've set up in the movie that this state of being is bad according to the rules of this movie's universe, then you need to show us that opposite state later.
Right. I'm saying from a progression standpoint, it
should have been tango
not as
dancing.
compelling to me to see these characters have this motivation and then not fulfill it.
Either tango or West Coast swing or salsa. They should have been dancing, damn it.
Yeah, we're going to a place that doesn't do all the fish.
It's hard though. It's like the epilogue. You don't have that much time, and I'm glad that it's not very long.
That wouldn't have taken more time though. Like
Maybe.
just to
It's
say,
just to
like
say,
she's
for
already
them to-
outlining what their day
But
is
it's also
like.
like, so there's tango in the zombie apocalypse.
Well,
Then that's the thing too. It's like it's a zombie apocalypse, so there's only so much that can be done.
but it's over though. The
But
apocalypse
the
is
infrastructure's
over.
happened, I guess, where they've learned to manage the
They've
zombies.
monetized the zombies. They're working at Target.
I love that. I think that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, you could have a happy ending where like
They took our jobs.
do we know what she does? Does she have a job?
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
She's just a housewife?
No.
She's not even a wife.
Do you guys know that
yeah.
Chris Martin, the lead singer of Coldplay, is in 2 times
Oh,
of
yeah.
this movie?
No, not
Where?
What's the second
He's
time?
a zombie, and then he's
Oh, he's
doing
a zombie?
Yeah, he's the product at the end.
I saw him in the cameo. I was like, was that Coldplay?
Yeah,
I didn't.
On
I didn't
one of the
notice that.
yeah, he's one of the
What
zombies.
zombie is he?
I don't know.
But
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what part? Do we see him as a non-zombie?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's a zombie. And all the zombies
No,
in
we
this
see
movie.
him. Well, we see him on the TV.
Yeah, after.
Yeah.
All the zombies were just fans of space that they like made a forum post, and everyone was like, "Yeah, I want to be in this movie."
Right.
So it's all fans, which is cool.
Right. Yeah. They had like a website sign up or whatever
Yeah.
where they could like recruit them.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
disappointed with the main characters pretending to be zombies. That's a great scene, but their like portrayal of zombies wasn't good enough. None of them are really doing any. None of them are really acting out or doing anything very funny. Like they're all kind of just like not acting like zombies. They're kind of just walking there with their arms kind of in front of them, going, "Ooh." Like some of them, one of them should have been doing something like totally out there and wacky. Like what?
I do like the joke though when it shows the first person. They're like, "Okay, do this, do that, do that," and then it pans to Shaun's mom, and she just has like this 1,000-mile stare, and they're like, "That's great," and she's like, "Oh, sorry, I was miles away." Yeah, you're like, "Oops."
Yeah, and I liked like the little acting class that the friend gives. Like that was all very good.
It's funny that like Ed is like shit talking everyone, and then he tries to do it and he just can't do it.
Yeah, and then Shaun. He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that was pretty good."
Yeah.
Hey, what's up with that like parallel universe gang that they run into, led by that acquaintance of
love
I
his?
it.
was really wondering. You love that?
I think it's so funny.
It
I don't know. The
seems
more
like
I
it
watch
has some
it,
significance.
Do you- It does
she's,
have- it
she's
does.
the other main character in Spaced.
So all of those actors in the mirror group or whatever, they have worked together often with their counterparts in the other group.
Okay.
So like as they walk past each other, you're seeing them say like, hey, what's up or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think to British audiences in particular, because most of the things that they're together in are British media. So for them, it's probably like, oh, it's a cameo or whatever.
I mean, the biggest one's
But to me, I'm just like, why are we doing this? This is like the mirror team from Recess or whatever. Like,
I mean, it's a
It
comedy.
still works, though.
Yeah, it's a comedy. It's funny.
I didn't think it
still-
was funny,
yeah.
but like it was like, huh.
Yeah.
That's a laugh. It's a
It's
weak
not
laugh.
a laugh. This is my whole thing. There's so many things in this movie where it's kind of like, huh.
What movie? I feel like there's
It's not
no movie
funny.
that makes you laugh out loud the way that you're
Dude.
saying that you wish you could.
Dude, I laugh in movies. I love comedy.
What's a comedy that
Monty
makes you
Python
laugh?
probably would make me laugh the hardest. Faulty Towers, anything with John Cleese. No, I will watch a comedy and I'll laugh out loud. I'm just saying that this movie, I don't understand. There's a lot of really funny parts, and I did laugh out loud many times in the movie. I think it's a very funny movie.
But you weren't like lolling. You were like.
No, I was laughing.
But you were like, haha.
No, I'll throw my head back and laugh.
In this movie.
Yeah.
I thought you just said you didn't do that.
No.
The hell is going on here?
I'm saying there's a lot of moments that I think people think is like a really funny moment where I didn't think was a funny moment, but there are other moments where I'm like, that's a funny
I
moment.
think the moments that people point out are usually clever moments. And like
Yeah.
sometimes cleverness isn't funny.
That's the thing.
But I think that's where you and I fundamentally disagree. Is I appreciate that cleverness, and for you it takes you out of it.
Yeah, I guess so. I think something being clever. It's like a dad joke level of clever.
No,
you know?
it's not. It's so much more clever than a dad joke.
It's more clever than a dad joke, but for me,
a
it's
mom
kind of
joke.
like it's sure.
But the difference
It's
is
like a
like
similar category.
instead of you laughing out loud at that, like I found myself just going, "That's a good joke." Like just saying, it, like
right.
It's like intellectually, like that's clever. See what you did there, very good. But I'm not like just keeling over on my couch.
But that is so much a product of watching the movie with less people. Because like even the best comedies, when you're by yourself, you're like, huh. Like
That's
I
true.
love Arrested Development, but if I watch it by myself, I'm not like, there's always money in the banana stand.
Yeah, if you watch stand-up comedy alone,
Yeah.
you maybe will go, haha.
No, that's what's funny about Arrested Development. I watch Arrested Development by myself, and I will laugh, and I'll be like, "That's funny. That's a good joke." But like, what's a banana, Michael? What could it cost? $10?
Rewatch though, I'm convinced that when you rewatch comedies that you've watched and you laugh out loud, it's half of it is your brain being like, I recognize that was an experience that I already had. My neural pathway fires, and then it's like it tells me to laugh. It's not that you're like finding it funny. It's your brain being like, you laughed once, laugh again.
That's entirely possible. And by that same argument, though, I would probably say that the reason that this film has maintained its like cult status and like been so highly regarded over the years is because people saw it initially, thought it was funny, and then keep watching it and rewatching it, and they're like, "Oh, it's such a good movie! It's a total classic!" Yeah. And I'm like, "It's fine.
Yeah,
it's good. I don't love it."
But I think that again, this kind of comes down to the thing we've talked about, whereas like, are movies better on? If a movie is better on rewatch, is that a bad thing, a good thing?
Right.
And I think it's debatable. There is no conclusive answer, but to me, all of Edgar Wright movies are way better the more you watch them because there's so many more of those connections where like, oh, that joke that I understood on one level, there's 3 more levels to it. It works in so many different dimensions, and the more you watch it, the more like it becomes like goes from being cubed comedy to like Tesseract comedy.
I'm still thinking about that comment you made about my brain knows I laughed at this in the past, so it's gonna make me laugh at it again. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I don't know if that applies to comedy because I know, especially if you get some distance from it, like Wayne's World. I've seen Wayne's World in high school. I didn't see it until high school, but I watched it a million times in high school. But I haven't seen it since, and I have a feeling if I put it on, I might just be like, yeah, this actually isn't that funny.
I think it goes both ways, though, where it's like stuff you watched 20 years ago might not stand up, but like stuff that like, I probably watch Shaun of the Dead at least once a year, every year since it's come out. Yeah. So like, that's what, 15, 17 times.
Right.
And so like, my brain is now like carved deep to laugh at everything in Shaun of the Dead. And so like, even though there's no one else in the room, I'm like, oh, he mentioned the Winchester again. Haha. Like, I don't know. That's a terrible example.
And it's not just movies. When people have routines that they engage in, every day or every week or whatever, doing the routine, just the act of doing the routine, even if the thing that you're doing isn't necessarily pleasurable, the fact that you're repeating actions that you're so familiar with and you're doing it because you like it can give you pleasure.
Oh.
Making a coffee every day. You know?
A psychology degree or something?
I'm like, ooh, I'm going to enjoy this coffee. I can't wait. And so like actually making the coffee, I enjoy making it even though it's work.
I have a feeling Wayne's World actually is still good.
It's okay. I don't like it that much. But I never really liked it, so.
Okay, look, to make peace with Edgar Wright and with this movie, I have some things that I thought were kind of cool.
Hit picks.
Give it to me. The place that does all the fish. When she's like, where are we going to go? And he's like, what about the place that does all the fish? She's like, okay, sure. And he looks it up in the phone book, and the phone place is literally called The Place That Does All the Fish.
That's a good gag.
We already talked about all the bit part characters being seen later as zombies. Ed, when Shaun is on the phone with Barbara, Ed yells into the receiver. He's like, we're coming to get you, Barbara. And that's a quote from Night of the Living Dead in 1968. It's like so many, like it would be... I found so many lines in this movie that are references to other things.
Oh, totally.
I'm just like, is there a line of dialogue that is not a reference to something? It's like hard to believe because there's so many.
Or a foreshadowing, like next time I see him, he's dead.
Yeah. And then the next time he sees him, he says, that's about Ed talking about Pete. That was one of my hit picks.
Like that one.
And then the next time he sees Pete is a zombie.
Or like, it's not the end of the world, zombie hand hits the window.
Yeah.
It's like,
Ed hands Shaun a beer once they finally get to the Winchester during the zombie bit, and he's like, oh, your boyfriend is whatever. And Ed's like, it's a bit warm, or it might be a bit warm because the cooler's off. Where he's like, thanks, babe.
Thanks, babe. Yeah, that was funny.
And that's a reference to Spaced,
Yep.
because that's something that their two characters would say to each other on Spaced. It's just everything. The Winchester is also the gun that's used in Night of the Living Dead movies from 1968 and 1990. the lift switch being revealed by the lighter, because like they're gonna kill themselves because they think the lift doesn't work, and then the like has the lighter and he reveals that there's an electronic switch and they're like, oh, we can't escape. That's a reference to the Resident Evil games, apparently.
Is it?
Because you have your lighter. That's there's a. I haven't played any of those games, but apparently there's a part in like one of the first games where you use your lighter. No. Maybe that was.
I played all of them, but
maybe this particular IMDb poster was completely off.
Made that one up.
Maybe it's a Silent Hill. Is it Silent Hill or Resident Evil?
They said Resident Evil, but I don't.
Okay. Anyways,
I just wrote it down because I haven't played the game.
I have a problem with that scene. They didn't look very hard for that that button. It was right there.
Well, they were a bit panicked. I don't know.
That's fair.
That scene kind of redeemed it a little bit for me. Because by the time they get down there, I think, as we were saying, the events in the bar are so tonally confused that I'm just like annoyed by the time we get there. And then they have this whole conversation about like, okay, should I shoot myself and then shoot you? And even at that part, I was kind of like, all right, this is a bit annoying. Like they're being so jovial about it. It's like
they're joking about it. But I do like that because it's like that's probably how you would deal with it. You would, like you have to manage talking about killing each other.
And it is a comedy, so it's like fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think again in that scene, just like in the car scene with Philip, they spend enough time kind of like bringing down the tone to something serious, where by the time that Shaun is saying goodbye to Ed and Ed makes the sorry fart joke once more, I'm kind of like, I felt it. I felt that emotion. I felt that fart emotionally.
I dealt it.
I smelt that fart with my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone. Oh wait, I had a question.
Let me have the last word.
What is the Cornetto? What is that? He mentioned. Is it a beer? Is it a snack?
It's the ice cream.
It's an ice cream.
So it's just there's not really that much that ties the three movies of the Cornetto trilogy together. It's really just Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright writing, and then like taking a high concept idea.
And Nick Frost is there.
He's in all of them, but he didn't write them. But it's just like it's more like a tonal thing where it's like a comedy plus something, like comedy plus zombie, comedy plus cop movie, zombie, comedy plus alien invasion movie. And then there's the actual Cornetto in each of the movies.
Right.
And so like they do flow together really well. Like if you can watch all three at once, they're not tied together because it's the same people play different characters. But there's lots of references and stuff. And it's one of those things. It's like a boulder running down the hill. Like once you're on board with that boulder of comedy, it picks up speed and you just can't stop loving it.
I can't go sideways. Just like in Jurassic Park. All right, guys. Well, this is the end of this episode. Thanks so much. Next week, we're going to do Event Horizon with Sarah. You can tweet at us if you want us to do more of this. Actually, no. Your tweets won't matter. It's how many views this gets.
Yeah.
If
Share it with all your friends.
Yeah. If you want us to do the whole Cornetto trilogy, then you better share this.
You better work.
You better work for it. You better listen on YouTube and on Spotify twice.
Send it to your mom. I know she loves these movies.
You wouldn't kill me, would you? You can tweet us at Carpool Critics. You can send an email. hello@carpoolcritics.ca.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you should send your mom the clip of the scene with just the
thing.
See you later.
Subject line makes me think of you.
All right, love you.